If someone looks away while talking to you, you've probably been taught that means they're lying. You've been taught wrong. This isn't just a harmless myth. Police interrogations are built on it. Job interviews are scored on it. People have been judged guilty in court because they looked away at the wrong moment, while plenty of liars walked free because they simply forced themselves to stare straight back. So if eye contact doesn't reveal a lie, what does? Stick with me, because the real signal is hiding somewhere most people never look. And once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. This belief didn't come from science. It came from old interrogation manuals from the 1940s and 50s, most famously a method called the Reid technique, which is still taught in some police departments today. Investigators were trained to treat a wandering gaze as a red flag, a tell almost as reliable as a confession. Hollywood ran with it almost immediately. Every crime drama since has used the same shorthand. Nervous eyes, guilty mind. Parents picked it up too, testing their kids with the classic line, "Look at me when you say that." Within a generation, an entire culture had trained itself to treat eye contact as a built-in lie detector. The problem is, nobody actually tested whether it worked. Decades passed before researchers ran proper studies, and when they finally did, the pattern didn't just weaken under pressure, it fell apart completely. There's a real cost to all this too. People with social anxiety, on the spectrum, or who simply grew up in a culture where direct eye contact is considered rude rather than respectful, get quietly punished for behavior that has nothing to do with honesty. Interviewers misread them as evasive. Teachers misread them as guilty. None of it was ever based on solid evidence. It was based on a guess from the 1940s that nobody bothered to check. Here's what actually happens, according to decades of research from psychologists who study deception for a living. Liars who are aware of the eye contact myth often overcorrect. They force more eye contact than normal, specifically because they know it's supposed to look honest, which paradoxically makes their gaze feel stiff and unnatural if you know what to look for. Truth-tellers, meanwhile, look away constantly, but for a completely different reason. Recalling a real memory takes cognitive effort, and looking away reduces visual distraction while your brain searches for the detail. It's the same reason you glance up at the ceiling when someone asks what you had for dinner 3 nights ago. Picture asking a friend where they were last Tuesday at 8 p.m. If they're telling the truth, they're not performing confidence, they're searching. And that search often looks like glancing away, pausing mid-sentence, restarting a thought that didn't come out right the first time. In other words, looking away isn't a guilty reflex. It's just what remembering looks like from the outside. There's also a cultural layer most lie detection myths ignore completely. In several cultures across Asia and parts of Africa, sustained eye contact with someone in authority is considered disrespectful, not honest. A teenager averting their eyes from a teacher in one country can mean exactly the opposite of what it would mean walking into a Western job interview. Universal lie detector, this is not. So what should you actually look for? Not one cue, a cluster. Deception researchers look for a change from someone's own personal baseline, which means you have to know how they normally talk before you can spot when something's off. 3 patterns come up again and again. First, distancing language. Someone suddenly switches from I to people or you mid-sentence, as if quietly putting space between themselves and the statement. Second, over-explaining, piling on detail nobody asked for because unconsciously they feel like more words will sound more convincing. Third, a shift in delivery. Their pace speeds up or their tone flattens right when the stakes get higher. That's the opposite of what you'd expect if they were simply nervous about being doubted. None of these prove a lie on their own. Plenty of honest, anxious people do all three. But when 3 or 4 of them show up together in the same sentence, right when it matters most, that cluster is the actual signal almost everyone has been missing while staring at someone's eyes instead. Imagine a coworker explaining why a report is late. If they simply say, "I underestimated how long it would take," that's a normal, slightly embarrassing admission. But if that same explanation turns into 90 seconds of unprompted detail about traffic, a sick child, 3 other projects, and a vague apology that somehow avoids ever saying, "I'm sorry it's late," the length and the dodge matter more than any single word. So how do you actually use this without turning into someone who suspects everyone of lying? First, give it time. You can't spot a shift from someone's baseline in the first 5 minutes of meeting them. So don't treat a stranger's nervous habits as evidence of anything. Second, look for clusters in context, not isolated moments. A flat tone during one stressful question means almost nothing on its own. A flat tone plus sudden distancing language plus an avalanche of unnecessary detail all appearing together when the stakes spike, that's worth paying attention to. And third, remember that this works both ways. The same baseline shift you're learning to notice in others is something you do too, every time you're nervous, tired, or just having an off day. And one more thing worth knowing. These clusters don't only show up in person. The same distancing language and over-explaining shows up in texts and emails, sometimes even more clearly, because people have time to overthink their wording before they hit send. Reading people well isn't about catching liars around every corner. It's about noticing real change, while staying humble about how often an honest explanation is sitting right there in plain sight. So, back to the question from the start. It was never about whether someone looks you in the eye. It's about whether their behavior suddenly shifts away from who they normally are, in their words, their pace, their explanations, all at the same time. That's the signal. Eye contact just happened to be the easiest one to film for a courtroom drama, not the one that actually holds up once researchers run the numbers. So next time someone looks away while talking to you, don't assume the worst. They might just be telling the truth, while their brain quietly does the hard work of remembering it. Save the suspicion for the cluster, the words, the pacing, the sudden shift from who they normally are. If this changed how you'll read people, subscribe, because every week Mind Decoded breaks down one more thing about human behavior that almost everyone gets wrong.